The moment Grayson Everett walked into his best friend's childhood home and saw Olivia Daniels arranging wildflowers in a crystal vase, something inside his chest cracked open in a way that terrified him. She had paint smudges on her cheek and wore faded overalls covered in splashes of color, humming something soft and melodic under her breath, completely unaware that she had just become the most dangerous person in his carefully controlled world. Gray. Marcus Daniels bounded down the stairs, pulling Grayson into a tight embrace that snapped his attention away from the woman in the living room. "Man, it has been too long. How was Dubai?" Grayson forced himself to focus on his best friend since college, the guy who had stood by him through every failed business venture before his luxury hotel chain finally took off. Exhausting. 3 weeks of negotiations, but we closed the deal. The Everett Grand Dubai opens next spring. That is what I am talking about. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder, leading him toward the kitchen. Mom is making her famous lasagna. You are staying for dinner, right? I would not miss it. Grayson had spent countless holidays and weekends at the Daniels home over the years. After his own parents passed away in a car accident when he was 25, this family had become his anchor, which made what he was feeling right now completely unacceptable. "Olivia, come meet Gray," Marcus called out. She appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a paint-stained towel, and up close she was even more devastating. Deep brown eyes framed by long lashes, a spattering of freckles across her nose, and a smile that seemed to light up the entire room. "So you are the famous Grayson Everett," she said, extending her hand. "Mark has told me absolutely everything about you. I feel like I already know you." Her handshake was firm, her palm warm against his, and Grayson felt that electric shock of connection that people wrote songs and poems about. "All good things, I hope. Mostly." Her eyes sparkled with mischief, though he did mention something about a karaoke incident in Vegas that involved a feather boa and a very off-key rendition of a Bon Jovi song. Marcus groaned. "I told you that in confidence, Liv. You told me no such thing." She laughed, and the sound was like wind chimes in summer. "You were bragging about it at Christmas." Grayson found himself smiling genuinely for the first time in weeks. "In my defense, there was tequila involved, a lot of tequila. There always is." She grinned at him before turning back toward the living room. "I will let you boys catch up. I have a commission piece due next week and I am behind schedule." As she walked away, Marcus said quietly, "She moved back home 6 months ago. Her art is finally taking off, so she is using the garage as a studio until she can afford her own space downtown." "She is talented?" Grayson asked, trying to sound casual. "Incredible. She does these huge abstract pieces that somehow capture exact emotions. I do not understand art, but even I can feel what she is putting on the canvas." Marcus pulled 2 beers from the fridge. "It is good to have her around again. She was in Portland for 5 years and I missed her." Grayson took the beer, his mind racing. He had heard Marcus mention his younger sister over the years, but she had always been away at art school or living on the West Coast. He had seen maybe 2 photos of her, both from years ago when she was still a teenager. This grown woman with paint on her hands and creativity radiating from her pores was someone entirely different, someone he absolutely could not have feelings for. Over dinner, Grayson tried to focus on the conversation around him. Marcus's parents, Helen and Robert, welcomed him with the same warmth they always had. They asked about his hotels, about his travels, about whether he was eating enough and sleeping properly. But his attention kept drifting to Olivia, who sat across from him and talked animatedly about a gallery show she was preparing for in September. "The theme is metamorphosis," she explained, her hands moving expressively as she spoke. I am exploring how trauma and healing transform us on a cellular level, how we become completely different people while still carrying our past within us. That sounds heavy, Robert said gently. It is, Olivia admitted, but it is also hopeful. The pieces show the beauty in becoming, you know. The strength in surviving and choosing to grow anyway. Grayson found himself leaning forward. What inspired the theme? She met his eyes and something passed between them, an understanding that felt intimate despite the table full of people. Personal experience. I went through something difficult a few years ago. Nothing I want to discuss over lasagna, she added with a small smile, but it changed me. Art became my way of processing it, of transforming the pain into something meaningful. She is being modest, Helen interjected. A gallery owner from New York saw her work online and flew out to Portland specifically to meet with her, offered her a solo show on the spot. Mom, Olivia's cheeks flushed pink. It is true, you should be proud. Marcus nudged Grayson. See, I told you she was incredible. After dinner, Grayson helped clear the table despite Helen's protests. He found himself in the kitchen with Olivia, loading the dishwasher in comfortable silence for a few moments. So, a hotel empire, she said finally. That must be exciting. It is rewarding, Grayson replied carefully. I like creating spaces where people feel taken care of, where they can escape from their regular lives for a while. A professional escape artist. She handed him a plate. I like that. Everyone needs an escape sometimes. What about you? Does your art feel like an escape or a confrontation? She paused, considering. Both, I think. I escape into the process, but the work itself forces me to confront things I might rather avoid. It is therapeutic in a complicated way. I understand that more than you might think. Grayson closed the dishwasher, turning to face her. Building my company was like that. Every hotel was me trying to create the sense of home and safety I lost when my parents died. Olivia's expression softened. Mark told me about them. I am so sorry. It was 8 years ago now. The grief is not as sharp anymore, but it shaped everything that came after. Metamorphosis, she said softly. Exactly. They stood there in the kitchen, the sounds of Marcus and his parents laughing in the living room drifting toward them, and Grayson felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. This was dangerous territory. Marcus was more than his best friend. He was his brother in every way that mattered. There were lines you did not cross, and falling for your best friend's sister was written in bold letters at the top of that list. I should get going, Grayson said reluctantly. Early meeting tomorrow. On a Saturday. Olivia raised an eyebrow. The glamorous life of a CEO, he said dryly. Conference calls with Tokyo do not care about weekends. He said his goodbyes, accepted a container of leftover lasagna from Helen, and endured Marcus walking him to his car. It is good to see you, man, Marcus said, pulling him into another hug. Do not be a stranger, okay? I know you are busy conquering the hospitality world, but we miss you around here. I miss you too, Grayson said honestly. Dinner next week, just us. Absolutely, I will text you. Grayson drove home to his downtown penthouse, the city lights blurring past his windows, and tried to convince himself that what he felt was just surprise at meeting someone interesting. Nothing more. He had built a billion-dollar company through discipline and control. He could certainly control this. But 3 days later, when Marcus called and asked if he wanted to grab lunch at their favorite burger place, Grayson found himself asking, "Is Olivia coming?" before he could stop himself. Actually, yeah. She wants to explore the downtown area, check out some studio spaces. Why? Just wondering. Grayson closed his eyes, cursing himself silently. Noon work for you, perfect, see you then. Grayson spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing what to wear for a casual lunch, eventually settling on dark jeans and a gray Henley that his assistant had once told him brought out his eyes. He felt ridiculous, like a teenager getting ready for a first date, but he could not seem to help himself. Olivia was already at the restaurant when he arrived, sitting across from Marcus in a booth by the window. She wore a simple white sundress with a denim jacket, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, and she was laughing at something on Marcus's phone. "There he is," Marcus said as Grayson approached. "Mr. Punctual himself. Sorry, traffic." Grayson slid into the booth next to Marcus, which meant he was directly across from Olivia. Her eyes met his and she smiled. "Good to see you again, Grayson." "You too. How is the studio search going? Overwhelming," she sighed, setting down her water glass. "Everything in my budget is either too small, in a terrible location, or has no natural light. I am starting to think I will be working out of my parents' garage forever." "What about the arts district?" Grayson suggested. "There are some older buildings there that have been converted into studio spaces. Might be more affordable than downtown proper. I have looked, but most of them have waiting lists a mile long." An idea was forming in Grayson's mind, one he knew he should ignore but could not quite let go of. "What if I made some calls? I know a few property owners in that area. One of them might have something available." Olivia's eyes widened. "You would do that?" "Of course he would," Marcus said, clapping Grayson on the back. "This guy is the king of connections. He knows everyone." "I do not want to impose," Olivia protested. "It is not an imposition," Grayson assured her. "I would be happy to help." They ordered burgers and spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing. Grayson learned that Olivia was 26, loved 80s rock music, could not cook to save her life despite her mother's best efforts, and had a tendency to work through the night when inspiration struck. She was funny and thoughtful, quick to laugh but also capable of deep, insightful observations that caught him off guard. Marcus excused himself to take a work call, leaving Grayson and Olivia alone in the booth. "Thank you for offering to help with the studio," she said. "You really do not have to, though. I know you are busy." "I want to," Grayson said honestly. "Your work sounds important. You should have a proper space to create it. Mark really values your friendship, you know." Olivia played with her napkin, folding and refolding it. "He talks about you like you are another brother. I feel like I have known you for years." The words hit Grayson harder than they should have. Brother. That was exactly what he was supposed to be to this family, and exactly what made his growing feelings for Olivia so impossible. "He is my family," Grayson said quietly. "Your whole family is. They took me in when I had no one. That is what family does." Olivia reached across the table, placing her hand over his in a gesture that felt natural and sent electricity shooting up his arm. "And now we are going to help you remember that you do not have to do everything alone, including finding me a studio." Marcus returned before Grayson could respond, and the moment passed. But as they left the restaurant and Olivia hugged him goodbye, her arms warm and solid around his waist, Grayson knew he was in serious trouble. He made the calls he had promised, reaching out to a property developer he had worked with on a hotel project 2 years earlier. Within a week, he had secured a viewing for 3 different studio spaces in the arts district, all within Olivia's budget. He texted her the information, trying to keep his message professional and brief. She responded immediately. "You are amazing. Are you free Saturday to come look at them with me? I would love a second opinion." Grayson stared at his phone, knowing he should say no, knowing that spending more time alone with her was only going to make everything worse. He typed out "I'll be there" and hit send before he could second-guess himself. Saturday arrived with perfect summer weather, sunny and warm without being oppressive. Grayson met Olivia at the first property, a converted warehouse with huge windows and exposed brick walls. She practically vibrated with excitement as they toured the space, her eyes lighting up as she imagined where she would place her easels and storage. "This is incredible," she breathed, spinning in a slow circle in the middle of the empty room. "Can you picture it? Canvas racks along that wall, my work table by the windows, maybe some plants to bring in life and color." Grayson could picture it perfectly, could imagine her here in this light-filled space, creating her transformative art. "It is a good space," he agreed. They looked at the other two properties, but it was clear the warehouse studio had captured Olivia's heart. As they stood outside in the late afternoon sun, she turned to him with tears shimmering in her eyes. "I cannot believe this is really happening. For so long, my art felt like a pipe dream, something I was chasing that might never materialize. And now I have a gallery show coming up and a real studio space. It feels like my life is finally coming together." "You made this happen," Grayson told her firmly. "Your talent, your hard work." "I just made a phone call." "You did more than that. You believed in me when you had no reason to. You are a good person, Grayson Everett." Standing there with her looking at him like he had hung the moon, Grayson made a decision he knew he would probably regret. "Let me take you to dinner." "To celebrate." "You do not have to do that. I want to. There is this Italian place a few blocks from here. Best pasta in the city, I promise." Olivia bit her lip, and for a moment Grayson thought she was going to say no. Then she smiled. "Okay, but only if you let me buy you a drink first." "I saw a rooftop bar on the way here that looked amazing." They went to the bar, a trendy spot with string lights and potted trees. The city skyline spread out before them in the golden hour light. Grayson ordered whiskey, Olivia a glass of white wine, and they claimed a quiet corner table. "Tell me something about you that Mark does not know," Olivia said, propping her chin on her hand. Grayson thought about it. "I play piano. Taught myself when I was 12 because we had this old upright in our house and I was bored one summer. I am not great, but I find it relaxing." "That is beautiful. Do you still play?" "I have a piano in my penthouse. Some nights when I cannot sleep, I will sit down and just let my fingers wander. I would love to hear you play sometime." The words were innocent, but the way she looked at him was not, and Grayson felt his resolve crumbling. "What about you? Tell me something no one knows." Olivia took a sip of her wine. "I am terrified that I am not actually talented, that everyone who likes my work is just being nice. I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night convinced that someone is going to realize I am a fraud." "Imposter syndrome," Grayson said. "I struggle with it too. Even now, with multiple hotels and Forbes articles about my success, I sometimes feel like I am one mistake away from losing everything. How do you deal with it?" "I remind myself that fear and growth live in the same place. If I am not scared, I am not pushing myself hard enough." Olivia raised her glass. "To being terrified and doing it anyway." Grayson clinked his glass against hers. "To metamorphosis." Dinner was even better than the bar. They talked for hours, the restaurant emptying around them as they shared stories and secrets and dreams. Grayson learned that Olivia wanted to eventually teach art to underprivileged kids, that she had a scar on her knee from falling out of a tree when she was 8, that her favorite movie was The Princess Bride, and she could quote the entire thing from memory. He told her about growing up as an only child, about the loneliness that drove him to build connections wherever he went, about how losing his parents had made him both more afraid of loss and more determined to make his life matter. "You are remarkable," Olivia said as they finally stepped out onto the sidewalk, the city alive with nighttime energy around them. Mark was right about you. What did he say? That you are the best person he knows. That you are loyal and brilliant and kind even when people do not deserve it. She looked up at him, the streetlights casting shadows across her face. He was not wrong. Grayson should have said goodnight, should have put her in a cab and gone home to his empty penthouse and reminded himself of all the reasons this could not happen. Instead, he said, "Walk with me. Just for a little while." They walked through the downtown streets, past late-night diners and closed boutiques, their shoulders occasionally brushing, the air between them charged with possibility. They talked about music and travel and what they would do if they could live anywhere in the world. Olivia said Paris, or maybe Barcelona, somewhere with old architecture and art on every corner. Grayson admitted he had never let himself think about it, had been so focused on building his empire that he forgot to dream about what came after. "You should dream, Grayson," Olivia said softly. "Life is too short to only focus on the destination. You have to enjoy the journey too." They ended up at a small park, sitting on a bench beneath an old oak tree, the sounds of the city muted to a gentle hum. Grayson knew they should talk about the elephant in the room, about the fact that she was Marcus's sister, and this was crossing lines that should not be crossed. But sitting here with her, everything felt right in a way he had never experienced before. "I should tell you something," Olivia said, turning to face him on the bench. "I asked Mark about you after that first dinner. I wanted to know more about his best friend who built a hotel empire and still makes time for family dinners." Grayson's heart was pounding. "What did he say?" "He said you are chronically single because you throw yourself into work and do not let people in. He said you date sometimes but never anyone serious, that you keep everyone at arm's length." She paused. "He sounded worried about you. Mark worries too much. Does he?" Olivia's eyes were searching his face. "Or does he see something you are trying to hide from?" "I am not good at this," Grayson admitted. "Connection, vulnerability, all of it. I built my company because I am good at creating spaces for other people to feel safe, but I never learned how to feel safe myself. Maybe you are just waiting for the right person to show you how." Olivia's hand found his on the bench, her fingers threading through his. "For what it is worth, I have not felt this comfortable with someone in a long time, maybe ever. Olivia." Her name came out rough. "This is complicated. Mark is my best friend. You are his sister. There are rules about this kind of thing." "Are there?" She moved closer, her face inches from his. "Or are those just walls you have built to keep yourself safe?" She was right. He knew she was right. And sitting there under the oak tree with her hand in his and her breath warm against his cheek, Grayson decided that maybe, just this once, he could let the walls come down. He kissed her softly, tentatively, giving her every chance to pull away. Instead, she leaned into him, her free hand coming up to cup his jaw, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Grayson rested his forehead against hers. "We should talk about this," he said. "We should," she agreed. "But not tonight. Tonight I just want to enjoy this." They sat there for a long time, holding each other beneath the stars, and Grayson felt something shift in his chest. For the first time in 8 years, he was not alone, and it was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. Over the next few weeks, Grayson and Olivia fell into a pattern of stolen moments and secret meetings. They would meet for coffee in the mornings before she went to her studio, take long walks through different neighborhoods in the evenings, text each other throughout the day with random thoughts and observations. They had not told Marcus yet, both of them knowing they needed to but not quite ready to face the potential fallout. "This is not sustainable," Grayson said one night as they sat in his penthouse, Olivia curled against his side on the couch. "He's going to find out eventually. I know." Olivia traced patterns on his chest. I am just enjoying living in this bubble for a little while longer. Once we tell him, everything changes. You think he will be angry. I think he will be protective. You are his best friend and I am his little sister. He is going to worry about what happens if things do not work out between us. Grayson pressed a kiss to the top of her head. What if I told you I am not worried about that? What if I told you that in these past few weeks, you have become the most important person in my life? Olivia sat up, looking at him with wide eyes. Grayson, I am falling in love with you, Olivia. Maybe I already have fallen. I know it is fast and I know it is complicated, but I have never been more certain of anything. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she was smiling. I love you too. I think I started falling that first night when you helped load the dishwasher and told me about building hotels as a way to create home. You are everything I did not know I was looking for. They kissed, deep and slow and full of promise, and Grayson knew they could not hide anymore. Whatever happened with Marcus, whatever complications arose, this was worth fighting for. We tell him this weekend, Grayson decided. Together, we sit him down and explain that this is real and we are serious about each other. What if he asks us to choose? Olivia's voice was small. What if he says it is him or us? Then we remind him that love is not a competition, that him being my best friend and you being the woman I love are not mutually exclusive. Grayson tipped her chin up. But it will not come to that. Mark is a good guy. Once he gets past the initial shock, he will understand. Saturday afternoon, they drove to the Daniels' house together, both nervous and determined. Marcus was in the garage working on his motorcycle, an old Harley he had been restoring for the past year. He looked up when they walked in, his expression shifting from pleased to confused as he registered that they had arrived together. Hey, what is this? Did I forget we had plans? No, Grayson said. We need to talk to you about something. Marcus set down his wrench, wiping his hands on a rag. That sounds ominous. It is not, Olivia rushed to assure him. At least, we hope it is not. It is just important. Marcus looked between them and Grayson saw the moment understanding dawned. His best friend's face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Surprise, confusion, and then something that might have been resignation. You two are together, Marcus said flatly. Yes, Grayson confirmed. We have been seeing each other for a few weeks. We wanted to tell you sooner, but we needed to figure out what this was first. And what is it? Marcus crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. It is real, Olivia said firmly. Mark, I know this is weird and unexpected, but Grayson and we fell in love. It was not something either of us planned, but it happened and it is serious. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working. Then he let out a long breath. I cannot say I am completely surprised. I saw the way you looked at each other at that first dinner. I told myself I was imagining it, but I guess I was not. Are you angry? Grayson asked. I am processing, Marcus admitted. You are my best friend, Gray. You are family. And Olivia, you are my sister. The idea of you two together is going to take some getting used to. We understand that, Olivia said. And we are not asking for your blessing right away, but we are asking you to keep an open mind, to trust that we both care about you and would never do anything to hurt you. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. If this goes south, if you two break up, I lose someone no matter what. Either my best friend or my sister pulls away because being around the other person is too painful. That will not happen, Grayson said with absolute conviction. I am in this for the long haul, Mark. I am not going anywhere. You cannot promise that. People break up all the time. You are right. I cannot promise we will never hit rough patches or face challenges, but I can promise that I love your sister and I will do everything in my power to make her happy. Grayson moved closer to his friend. You know me, man. You know I do not do anything halfway. This matters to me. She matters to me. Marcus looked at Olivia. You are really sure about this? I have never been more sure of anything, she said simply. I love him, Mark, and I know it is complicated, but life is complicated. We do not get to choose who we fall in love with. You really do not, Marcus agreed with a rueful laugh. He was quiet for another moment, then stepped forward and pulled Grayson into a tight hug. If you hurt her, I will kill you. Understood, Grayson said, relief flooding through him. Marcus hugged Olivia next. And if he hurts you, I will kill him and hide the body where no one will ever find it. Also understood. Olivia was crying again, her arms tight around her brother. Okay, Marcus said, stepping back and looking at both of them. Okay, we are doing this. My best friend is dating my sister. This is totally normal and not at all weird. It is definitely weird, Olivia agreed with a watery laugh. But it is also kind of perfect, Marcus admitted. If you are going to fall for someone, Liv, I am glad it is someone I know will treat you right. And Gray, you deserve to be happy. You have been alone too long. They spent the rest of the afternoon together, the awkwardness gradually fading into something that felt natural. Helen and Robert took the news with surprising calm, Helen even admitting that she had suspected something was developing after seeing them at dinner that first night. You have a certain energy together, she said, smiling, like you are tuned to the same frequency. As the sun set and Grayson prepared to leave, Marcus walked him to his car. I meant what I said, Marcus told him. About being happy for you. It is going to take some adjustment, but I can see how you look at her. I have never seen you like this with anyone. I have never felt like this about anyone, Grayson admitted. She changed everything, Mark. She made me want things I thought I had given up on. Like what? Like a future that is not just about work and success. Like a home that is more than just an empty penthouse. Like the possibility of building something real with someone. Grayson met his friend's eyes. Like a family of my own someday. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. Then you better not screw this up. I do not plan to. The next few months were the happiest of Grayson's life. He and Olivia stopped hiding their relationship, going on real dates, meeting each other's friends, building a life together. Her gallery show in September was a massive success, with 3 art critics writing glowing reviews and half the pieces selling on opening night. Grayson stood in the back of the gallery, watching her talk animatedly with potential buyers, and felt a pride so fierce it almost hurt. Afterward, they went back to his penthouse and celebrated with champagne and pizza, sitting on his balcony and watching the city lights. I cannot believe it is real, Olivia said, leaning back against his chest. All of it. The show, the sales, you. Sometimes I am afraid I am going to wake up and it will all be a dream. It is real, Grayson assured her, wrapping his arms around her waist. You worked hard for this, and you deserve every bit of success coming your way. I could not have done it without you. The studio space, the encouragement, the way you believed in me even when I did not believe in myself. I will always believe in you. He pressed a kiss to her temple. You are the most talented person I know. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, then Olivia said quietly, Grayson, can I ask you something? Anything? Where do you see this going? Us, I mean. Grayson turned her in his arms so he could see her face. I see it going everywhere. I see us building a life together, supporting each other's dreams, creating our own family. I see forever if you will have me. That is a big promise. I am a man who keeps his promises. Grayson cupped her face in his hands. I love you, Olivia Daniels. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep holding you every night. I want to be there for every gallery show and every moment of doubt and every triumph. I want it all with you. I want that too, she whispered. I want forever with you. They made love that night with a new intensity. The knowledge that they were in this for the long haul adding weight and meaning to every touch. Afterward, lying tangled together in Grayson's bed, he found himself thinking about engagement rings and wedding plans, and the future he had never let himself imagine before. The holidays approached, and for the first time since his parents died, Grayson felt excited about them. He spent Thanksgiving with the Daniels family, Olivia by his side, helping Helen in the kitchen and watching football with Robert and Marcus. It felt like coming home in the best possible way. "I have been thinking," he told Olivia as they drove back to his place that night, "about the hotel in Paris, the one we are opening next fall, the one you have been planning for 2 years. That is the one. I need to go over there in January for 3 weeks to oversee the final preparations. Come with me." Olivia turned to him, eyes wide. "Are you serious?" "Completely. You said you always wanted to live in Paris, at least for a little while. We could explore the city together, eat croissants for breakfast, visit the Louvre. I will be working during the days, but the evenings would be ours. Grayson, I cannot just drop everything and go to Paris for 3 weeks." "Why not? Your next show is not until April. You can paint anywhere, and maybe being in Paris will inspire new work. You have thought about this." "I have thought about nothing else for weeks." He pulled over to the side of the road, taking her hands in his. "I want to show you the world, Olivia. I want to experience it all with you. Say yes." "Yes," she said immediately, laughing. "Of course yes. How could I say no to 3 weeks in Paris with you?" They flew to Paris in early January, first-class tickets and a suite at a luxury hotel that took Olivia's breath away. The room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Eiffel Tower, a marble bathroom bigger than her studio, and a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud. "This is insane," she said, spinning in a circle to take it all in. "Grayson, this is too much." "It is not too much. It is exactly right." He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Besides, we own the hotel. It would be weird if we stayed anywhere else. We own it." "I thought the company owned it." "I am the company, and what is mine is yours." Olivia turned in his arms. "You know I am not with you for your money, right? I do not care about the hotels or the wealth or any of that." "I know," Grayson said gently. "You love me for my dazzling personality and devastatingly good looks." She laughed, swatting his chest. "I love you for your kindness and your loyalty and the way you play piano at 3 in the morning when you cannot sleep. I love you for the man you are, not the empire you built." "I know that too," he said seriously. "It is one of the many reasons I am going to marry you someday." "Someday?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "That sounds suspiciously like you have a plan." "I always have a plan." He kissed her nose. "But some things are worth waiting for, and I want to do this right." They spent 3 magical weeks in Paris. Grayson worked during the days, overseeing construction and meeting with staff, while Olivia explored the city with a sketch pad and camera. In the evenings, they would meet for dinner at tiny bistros and famous restaurants, walking hand in hand along the Seine and through cobblestone streets that smelled of bread and wine. They visited the Louvre and Musée d'Orsay, climbed to the top of Notre Dame, spent an entire day in Montmartre watching street artists and drinking coffee at sidewalk cafes. On their last night in Paris, Grayson took Olivia to a private restaurant on the top floor of the Eiffel Tower. He had called in favors and paid exorbitant fees to have the space completely to themselves, just the two of them and a string quartet playing softly in the corner. "Grayson, what is all this?" Olivia asked as they stepped off the elevator into the candlelit space. "This is me doing it right," he said simply. They ate a 5-course meal prepared by a Michelin-starred chef, each bite more incredible than the last. The lights of Paris spread out below them in all directions. Olivia kept looking around in wonder, her hand finding his across the table, squeezing tight. After dessert, Grayson stood and offered her his hand. "Dance with me." They swayed to the music, wrapped up in each other as the quartet played, and Grayson felt his heart hammering against his ribs. He had given speeches to hundreds of people, negotiated billion-dollar deals, faced down impossible odds to build his empire. None of it compared to the terror and joy of this moment. "Olivia," he said softly, and she pulled back to look at him. "Do you remember what I said to you that night after your gallery show, about seeing forever with you?" "I remember everything you have ever said to me," she whispered. "Good, because I meant every word." He released her and dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "You came into my life when I least expected it and changed everything. You made me believe in love and home and second chances. You made me want to be more than just a successful businessman. You made me want to be a good man, a whole man, the kind of man who deserves someone as incredible as you." Tears were streaming down Olivia's face, her hands covering her mouth. "I want to spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me," Grayson continued. "I want to support your dreams and celebrate your successes and hold you through the hard times. I want to build a family with you, a real home, a life that matters because we are living it together." He opened the box, revealing a vintage diamond ring that caught the candlelight and sparkled like captured starlight. "Olivia Daniels, will you marry me?" "Yes," she sobbed, dropping to her knees in front of him and cupping his face in her hands. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly, like it had been made just for her. Then they were kissing and crying and laughing all at once, the string quartet breaking into a celebratory song, Paris glittering below them like a blessing. "I love you so much," Olivia said against his lips. "I did not know it was possible to be this happy." "Neither did I," Grayson admitted. "But I am learning. You are teaching me." They called Marcus from the restaurant, putting him on video chat so he could see the ring and share in their joy. "I am happy for you both," Marcus said, and he sounded like he meant it. "Gray, you better start planning the bachelor party now because I have ideas." "Terrifying," Grayson said dryly. "Liv, I am proud of you. You deserve all the happiness in the world." "Thank you, Mark, for accepting us, for supporting us, for being the best brother anyone could ask for." "Always," Marcus promised. They called Helen and Robert next, both of whom were thrilled and immediately started talking about wedding plans. By the time they hung up, Olivia was exhausted and glowing, leaning heavily against Grayson's side. "Take me home," she said softly. "I want to start our forever right now." They flew back to the States a few days later and immediately dove into wedding planning. Olivia wanted something intimate and meaningful, not a huge society wedding, and Grayson was more than happy to agree. They settled on a ceremony at the Daniels family home in the backyard where Olivia had grown up, under the oak tree where she used to read books all summer long. "It is perfect," she said as they stood looking at the space, imagining chairs and flowers and all their loved ones gathered to witness their vows. "Everything I ever wanted without knowing I wanted it." They set the date for September, exactly 1 year after Olivia's first gallery show, exactly 1 year after they had stood on Grayson's balcony and talked about forever. The months leading up to the wedding flew by in a blur of cake tastings and invitation designs, and endless discussions about flowers versus no flowers, band versus DJ, traditional vows versus ones they wrote themselves. Through it all, Grayson and Olivia grew even closer. They moved into a new house together, a beautiful craftsman with a huge backyard and space for Olivia's art studio. Grayson made sure the studio had perfect north-facing light and custom storage for her supplies. Olivia filled the house with color and life, hanging paintings on the walls and planting flowers in the garden, and making every room feel like home. "I cannot believe this is my life," she said one evening as they cooked dinner together, moving around the kitchen in perfect synchronization. "A year ago, I was living in my parents' garage and hoping my art would eventually support me. Now I am engaged to the love of my life. My work is selling faster than I can create it, and I wake up every morning feeling grateful." "Metamorphosis," Grayson reminded her, pulling her close. "You transformed your pain into beauty and your dreams into reality. I am just lucky enough to be along for the ride." "You are not just along for the ride. You are my partner in everything." "Partner," Grayson repeated, testing the word. "I like that." The wedding day arrived with perfect weather, warm and sunny with a gentle breeze that rustled the leaves of the oak tree. Grayson stood beneath an arch woven with wildflowers, Marcus by his side as his best man, and watched as Olivia walked down the makeshift aisle on her father's arm. She wore a simple ivory dress with lace sleeves and a flowing skirt, her hair loose around her shoulders, a crown of flowers on her head. She looked like something out of a fairy tale, like every dream Grayson had never let himself have. When she reached him and took his hands, he had to blink back tears. "You are breathtaking," he whispered. "You are not so bad yourself," she whispered back, smiling through her own tears. They had decided to write their own vows, and when the officiant nodded to Grayson, he took a deep breath and began. "Olivia, I spent so many years thinking I knew what I wanted. Success, respect, an empire that would last. And then you walked into your parents' living room arranging wildflowers, and suddenly all of that seemed hollow compared to the possibility of knowing you. You taught me that love is not a weakness or a distraction. It is the whole point. You are my home, my heart, my whole world. I promise to love you fiercely and gently, to support your dreams as if they were my own, to stand by your side through every challenge and celebrate every triumph. I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of our lives." Olivia was crying openly now, but her voice was steady when she spoke her own vows. "Grayson, you were never supposed to happen. My brother's best friend, the successful businessman, the man who seemed untouchable and guarded. But then you helped load a dishwasher and told me about building hotels to create a sense of home, and I started to see the real you. The man who plays piano at 3 in the morning, who makes calls to help a stranger find studio space, who loves with his whole heart when he finally lets himself feel. You made me believe in love again. You made me feel safe and seen and cherished. I promise to be your partner in all things, to remind you to dream and play and rest when you push yourself too hard, to love you with everything I am and everything I am becoming. I promise to choose you every single day forever." They exchanged rings, simple platinum bands that felt right on their fingers, and when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Grayson cupped Olivia's face in his hands and kissed her like she was oxygen, and he had been drowning. The small crowd erupted in applause and cheers, but all Grayson could hear was his wife's laughter against his lips. The reception was a joyful blur of toasts and dancing and good food. Marcus gave a speech that was equal parts heartfelt and embarrassing, recounting stories from his and Grayson's college days while also talking about how happy he was to officially have Grayson as a brother. Helen cried through her entire speech about watching her baby girl grow into this incredible woman. Robert clinked his glass and simply said, "To love, to family, to forever." As the evening wound down and guests started to leave, Grayson and Olivia found a quiet moment alone beneath the oak tree where they had exchanged vows. "So, Mrs. Everett," Grayson said, pulling her close, "how does it feel?" "Perfect," Olivia replied. Everything about today was perfect. Everything about you is perfect. You are biased. Extremely, he agreed, but also correct. They swayed together in the twilight, no music playing, just the sounds of their family cleaning up and laughing in the distance. Thank you, Olivia said softly. For what? For seeing me that first night. For taking a chance on us. For being brave enough to cross the lines that everyone said should not be crossed. For loving me the way I always hoped someone would. Thank you for teaching me how, Grayson replied. For showing me that opening my heart was not a risk but a gift, for being patient while I figured it out, for choosing me. Always, Olivia promised, forever and always. They honeymooned in Italy. 2 glorious weeks of exploring ancient cities and eating incredible food and making love in beautiful hotel rooms with views of the Mediterranean. When they returned home, they settled into married life with surprising ease. Olivia's career continued to flourish, galleries across the country reaching out to show her work. Grayson opened 2 more hotels, including one in Tokyo that was already being hailed as an architectural marvel. But more than the professional successes, they built a life filled with small, meaningful moments. Sunday morning pancakes and reading the paper together. Date nights where they tried new restaurants or went to art galleries or simply stayed home and cooked dinner. Game nights with Marcus that got increasingly competitive. Family dinners at the Daniels house where they laughed and told stories and felt grateful. 2 years into their marriage, Olivia nervously showed Grayson a positive pregnancy test, worried about how he would react. He picked her up and spun her around the kitchen, laughing and crying and talking about how they were going to be parents. We are going to be terrible at this, Olivia said through happy tears. Probably, Grayson agreed, but we will figure it out together. Their daughter was born on a snowy December morning, tiny and perfect with Olivia's eyes and Grayson's dark hair. They named her Grace Helen Everett, after the concept that had brought them together and the grandmother who had welcomed Grayson into the family so many years ago. Holding his daughter for the first time, Grayson understood what love really meant in a way he never had before. Marcus was a devoted uncle, showing up with ridiculous amounts of toys and offering to babysit whenever they needed a break. Helen and Robert became the kind of grandparents who spoiled their granddaughter rotten and loved every second of it. The house filled with baby laughter and late-night feedings and the beautiful chaos of new parenthood. When Grace was 6 months old, Grayson came home from work to find Olivia in her studio, Grace sleeping in a bassinet nearby while Olivia worked on a new piece. She was painting a family, abstract but clearly recognizable, 3 figures intertwined in shades of gold and blue and green. It is us, Olivia explained when she noticed him watching. I am calling it becoming, because we are still growing and changing and learning who we are as a family. It is beautiful, Grayson said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. You are beautiful. This life we have built is beautiful. We did it, Olivia said softly. We took a risk on something everyone said was complicated and impossible, and we made it work. We made it more than work. We made it extraordinary. 3 years later, they welcomed a son, James Marcus Everett, named for Grayson's father and the best friend who had brought them together even if he had not meant to. Grace was a devoted big sister, constantly wanting to help with the baby and telling anyone who would listen about her little brother. As the kids grew, Grayson and Olivia grew with them. They bought a bigger house with even more space for Olivia's ever-expanding art studio and a piano room where Grayson could play without waking the children. They took family vacations to the beaches and mountains and cities across the world. They fought sometimes about parenting decisions and work-life balance and whose turn it was to do the dishes. But they always came back to each other, always remembered the promises they had made beneath that oak tree. Marcus eventually met someone too, a brilliant lawyer named Sarah who matched his energy and made him happier than Grayson had ever seen him. They got married when Grace was 5, and Grace was the flower girl in a purple dress that she insisted on wearing for weeks afterward. "Looks like I am not the only one who found their forever," Grayson told Marcus at the wedding reception. "You set a good example," Marcus replied. "Showed me it was possible to take a chance on love and have it actually work out." "We got lucky," Grayson admitted. "No," Marcus said firmly. "You worked for it, both of you. You chose each other every day even when it was hard. That is not luck. That is love." On their 10th wedding anniversary, Grayson took Olivia back to Paris, just the two of them while Helen and Robert watched the kids. They stayed at the hotel where they had spent those first 3 magical weeks, visited all their favorite spots, and returned to the top of the Eiffel Tower where he had proposed. "You remember what I said that night?" Grayson asked as they stood looking out over the city. "That you wanted to spend the rest of your life showing me how much I meant to you," Olivia replied. "That you wanted to build a family and a real home and a life that mattered." "We did it," Grayson said. "We built all of that and more." "We did," Olivia agreed, leaning back against him. "And I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Every moment, every challenge, every beautiful second of this life we created together. Even the terrible twos with both kids, even that," she laughed. "Okay, maybe I could have done without some of those tantrums, but overall, yes. 1,000 times yes." They stood there as the sun set over Paris, the city lighting up around them, and Grayson thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. From that first dinner where he saw her arranging wildflowers to this anniversary celebration across the ocean, every step had been worth it. "What are you thinking?" Olivia asked. "I am thinking about how grateful I am. For you, for our family, for this life we built. I am thinking about how you took someone who was afraid to feel anything and taught him how to love without limits." He turned her in his arms. "I am thinking about how falling for my best friend's sister was the best risk I ever took." "You know what I am thinking?" Olivia smiled up at him. "I am thinking about how we get to do this forever. How we get to keep building and growing and loving each other through every stage of life. How we get to watch our kids grow up and maybe someday have kids of their own. How we get to grow old together, still holding hands and still choosing each other." "Forever," Grayson agreed, kissing her as the Eiffel Tower lit up behind them, a beacon of light in the darkness. "I will love you forever, Olivia Everett, in this life and whatever comes after." "Forever," she whispered back. "Always and forever." And in that moment, standing in the city where he had asked her to marry him a decade ago, Grayson knew that he had found what he had been searching for his whole life. Not success or wealth or recognition, but this. A partner who challenged and supported him, a family that filled his heart to bursting, a home that was built on love and laughter and the courage to take chances on the things that mattered most. The off-limits had become his forever, and it was more than he had ever dreamed possible. It was everything. Years continued to pass, each one bringing its own joys and challenges. Grace grew into a thoughtful teenager with her mother's artistic talent and her father's business sense. James was all energy and curiosity, constantly asking questions and exploring the world around him. Grayson expanded his hotel empire while always making sure to prioritize family time. Olivia's art evolved, her later pieces exploring themes of family and legacy, and the beautiful complexity of building a life with someone you love. They celebrated anniversaries and birthdays, mourned when Robert passed away peacefully in his sleep at 78, rallied around Helen as she adjusted to life without her partner of 50 years. They threw graduation parties and attended school plays and sports games. They taught their children about hard work and kindness and the importance of taking risks on love. And through it all, Grayson and Olivia remained each other's constant. They still danced in the kitchen when a good song came on. They still took walks through the city at night, talking about everything and nothing. They still chose each other every single day, exactly as they had promised beneath that oak tree so many years ago. On their 25th anniversary, surrounded by their children and grandchildren, Marcus and Sarah, Helen and a crowd of friends who had watched their love story unfold, Grayson raised his glass in a toast. "To my wife," he said, his voice thick with emotion. 25 years ago, you walked into your parents' house arranging wildflowers, and my entire world shifted. You taught me what love really means. You gave me a family I never thought I deserved. You turned the scared, closed-off man I was into someone capable of joy and vulnerability and deep, abiding happiness. Every day with you has been a gift. Here is to 25 more years, and then 25 after that, and whatever time we are lucky enough to have together." "To love," Olivia added, her eyes shining. "To family. To taking chances on the things that matter most. And to you, Grayson Everett, the man who saw me, chose me, and never stopped choosing me. You are my forever." Everyone raised their glasses, voices joining in a chorus of love and celebration, and Grayson looked around at the life they had built. It had started with a stolen moment in a kitchen, a hand reaching for his across a divide that should not have been crossed. It had grown into this, a family, a legacy, a love story that would outlast them both. The off-limits had indeed become his forever, and it was, without question, the best decision he had ever made.